This is the Dreamers Podcast, where dreamers share their stories to inspire you. Now, join host Joe Pardo as he interviews a dreamer who's living their dreams.
Welcome to the Dreamers Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Pardo, and today I am interviewing Stephanie Kruze, who is living her dream by moving to North Jersey and running a successful Korean entertainment blog. Welcome to the show, Stephanie.
Hey, Joe.
Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. So let's start by giving our audience a background on yourself.
Okay. Well, as you said, I just moved here. I lived in New Hampshire for all of my life. And then I discovered this crazy thing called K-drama, which is the term for Korean television. And I started a blog, and it's been about like 2.5 years now. And it just completely changed my life. And I got inspired to, move away from my town into the city by myself and my cat, and try and just experience a lot of new and bigger things.
So what would you say is your biggest inspiration?
I get inspiration from everywhere. It's almost a matter of too much inspiration, too much things just coming into my head. I knew that when I grew up, I knew that I wanted to be a writer. I was definitely going to be a writer. I wanted to write books, and I started out doing that, and I worked really hard at trying to write, and it just, it wasn't working for me. And then when I started watching these shows and I wanted to talk about them, I'd had a couple blogs before, and they never really, I was just never really inspired to keep going with them. I have a pretty short attention span. And, but this one, I just kept going, and really, it was having people read me. Like, it's amazing. I'm such a numbers fanatic. On the back of my blogger, you can actually see like how many people are reading you, where across the world. And it just was astounding that people all around the world was actually interested in what I had to say. And it just completely changed my life. And I, was just really inspired to keep trying and keep pushing further.
What kind of books would you write as a kid?
I was always a big into romance. I was a big romance fanatic. And so that's actually what got me into watching K-drama. Well, because it's like watching a romance novel on your TV. And they're super short. They're from anywhere from 16 to 20 episodes. And it's just like, so unlike American television, there's a start, a middle, and an end. Within those hours, you see the whole story, and then you can move on to something else. I like to take things apart, and that's the writer part of me, was analyzing these things to see how they worked and how I could apply it to my writing. And then it just started taking over more and more and more, and now this is what I do. My dream has, because of this, my dream changed, and I had to realize that and become okay with that.
Well, you explained how your dream came about for writing about K-drama online. What about moving to New Jersey, which is my favorite state, by the way, being from South Jersey?
Well, I'm going to come out and say that my dream was never to end up in New Jersey. I actually say that I am New York adjacent. But where I lived in New Hampshire, it's a fairly small town. I live in the woods, in the national woods. There's really just, if you like skiing, if you like hiking, there's lots of things to do for you. If you're not big into those things, then you're really kind of left out of everything. And so I knew that it wasn't where I needed to be. but I didn't have anywhere else to go. Like, I didn't have a driving urge to be anywhere. So I just stayed there. And when my obsession with this Korean entertainment started, and I realized it was like, oh my goodness, there's so much more out there. And not to say that there's anything wrong with New Hampshire, but when I realized that there's so much more, to get to try Korean food for the first time, I would have to go to Portland, which is like 2 hours away. Or if I wanted to try any of these things that I was seeing, or maybe try and learn the language, or go and see some of these musical bands, I'd have to come to New York. And so that's when I realized that, if I become really old and still live in New Hampshire and have never tried anything different, then I'm going to be really sad. So it didn't matter where I ended up. I just needed to try something different. And luckily through this, and I have a job where I can work from home, I just decided, okay, it's going to happen. And it was, I had to decide the town where I was going to go. And I, checked a couple of different places, like Boston or Providence, and finally I settled on, the New York area. And I just to end up in New Jersey. I just found this apartment that I absolutely loved it. It's so beautiful. And so now, dreams change, and now I'm in Jersey City, and I'm just like, I can see myself staying here. I love being in the city, and now I'm like, why didn't I come here sooner? I wasted so much time when I could have been having all these awesome adventures that I have now.
Yeah, I mean, living just outside of New York City has got to be pretty exciting, considering you go into the city quite often, don't you?
I can see the skyline from my bathroom.
It's a great place for it.
Right? It's amazing. Yeah, I go in and people are like, well, because I came here by myself. I don't, I knew one person here, a friend I went to school with, but besides that, I didn't know anybody. People are like, well, aren't you going to be afraid? Aren't you going to, and I didn't really think about it like that. I wanted this adventure, and I was never really scared, ever. I just wanted to try it. And so now I go into the city and I won't have a plan, and I'll just be like, what's going to happen today? And that in the city, something is always going to happen. And you just have to be ready for it, or open to be like, oh, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to go over here and see this, Lunar New Year parade, or, and it's just, sometimes I walk through the city and it just boggles my mind that, oh, this is what my life is now. This is incredible. And I have to thank the blog, really, for giving me the opportunity to do that.
So when you told your family and your friends that you were ready to move to North Jersey to be a part of the New York life, how was that received?
Everybody was super supportive. They knew, they'd all known for a long time that though they love me, that was, and they liked to see me, that really it wasn't the place for me. And it was hard leaving my friends, but, without like my friend Lori, she was a pusher, and I don't think that I would really, what have you done today? Oh, you should check this, and this is what you should do. You should go online, and you're a blogger. You could go and meet up with these other bloggers. And I don't think without that encouragement, I would have had yes, I can do this, to be able to get here.
Yeah, she's definitely a pusher.
Right. In a good way, to help me, it's good to have friends who are really smart, because it pushes you to be a better version of yourself. And I think that's what you need sometimes, even though it's intimidating, But I've had much better reactions to my move here than it's kind of funny than I had with working as hard as I do on the blog. Like, I've had more pushback on that than I did, besides about completely like uprooting my life and moving it, like 5 states away. So it's been interesting, the whole experience.
Well, how was it received by everybody when you told them, hey, I'm doing this blog? And oh my God, I'm getting like 500 hits a day. Oh my God, I'm getting 1,000 hits a day. Oh my God, it's blowing up, and
Right.
it's taking me all these places, and I'm meeting all these people because of I'm following what I have a passion for.
Right. It's my closest friends have been really nice about it, but I have come across, especially for having an interest that's kind of outside the norm. I go to a blogger meeting now, even now here, and everybody, oh, I'm a lifestyle blogger. I'm a food blogger. And I'm like, I blog about Korean television. It's you get the eye rolls, you get the, oh my gosh, really? Tell me about that. People just think it's crazy that you spend so much time working on something that doesn't have any meaning. But just because it doesn't have any meaning to you doesn't mean that it's not, meaningful to me. And yes, I work a lot of, I put a lot of time into, I started out really small because I didn't think that I was going to keep going, but I put a lot of time into the blog, and people don't get that. Why you work every day on something that you don't get paid for? Like, well, yes, but I love it, and I can't shut up, so it's a nice outlet for that.
That's a good jumping point for how did you get started with the blog?
I started watching the dramas, and then I wanted to talk about it. And because there was no one in New Hampshire who was watching them or wanted to talk about them, and my friends were nice, however, there's only so much you can listen to somebody talk about something that has nothing to do with you before your eyes start glazing over. So I just started to blog about it, and it slowly grew. And I just remember being on the phone with my friend Jamie. I called her because she's such a support when I was doing this. It's such an encouragement, like teaching me about social media and teaching me about doing these crazy Photoshop encouragement things for me. And I remember being on the phone with her the first time that I ever got 100 hits in a day. And now I'm like, if I ever got 100 hits a day, I would cry. I would seriously, like, something would be wrong, and I would cry if I only had 100 hits. But, as we watch the number slowly tick, I'll be like, it's 68, it's 68, we're 72. And then by the end of the night, we're just screaming. And she's just so kind about like being so excited for me as well, that 100 people wanted to read what I had to say. So I try and post 5 times a week, but being me, it's generally something, generally more. I'm right now, I realized today that today's post, Musical Monday, was my 999th post. So I think tomorrow I'll be doing something fun for my 1,000th post.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you. I'm super excited.
I don't blame you. I mean, I get excited whenever I see high numbers, but high numbers for me and high numbers for you are two different worlds.
It's gotten me some great opportunities. I've done some guest blogging for a site that imports the dramas. I've been invited to. I've been actually, like, I'm now considered press. I have press badges. I walk in and I'm just trying to blend in with the crowd because I'm like, somebody's gonna realize soon that I do not belong here, and. But it's just, and I'm going out this in August. I'm going out to speak at a conference about it, and I'm just, it's like you start small, but it's amazing where your life leads if you just keep working at it. It really is.
Well, when you got started, was there any roadblocks that you ran into, and how did you go about overcoming them?
Mainly it's me. I'm very competitive, and I'm very, passionate about what I do, but it's hard to it's just like reading what you write and being like, is this good enough? Is this entertaining? Oh my God, nobody's gonna like this. Oh my God, this is so dumb. Why do I keep doing this? The major hurdle that I've had to get past is really myself. And luckily, I have some friends out there who are just like, no, you've got to do this. You've got to, this is nut up. You've got to nut up. Just do it. And they've gotten me farther than I think I probably would have gotten myself, because I have a tendency to like, it's just not good enough. It's just not, nobody wants to read this. It's terrible. But it's not, I'm funny. It's entertaining, and you have to be, you know, either confident in yourself or have people around you who are confident in you to get you to go forward.
So was there any parts of either moving or, well, let's first start with, was there any roadblocks that you hit with moving?
With moving, it went really smoothly. And once I decided that I was going to do it and I, put the money aside for it, people would be like, well, aren't you nervous? Aren't you worried? And I'm like, no, not really. Once I made that decision, I couldn't wait to get here. And the little things about, oh my gosh, how am I going to get my stuff down there? Oh my gosh, getting from one place to another. I have to learn the bus system. I've never used public transportation before. Those little things. But all in all, I think of it as a big adventure, and I try not to worry about it too much. But I mean, then there's still I'm on the outside, I like to pretend I'm very adventurous, but I'm still me on the inside, my little introvert who likes to sit at home writing and watching TV, getting out there and meeting new people, because, I can't spend all of my time with just me and my cat. Having to find a new group of people to be friends with and to hang out with. That's probably the biggest thing that I'm dealing with right now, is just trying to be like, okay, now that you have like 3 friends, that's not just it. You need to go out and get more.
Well, it's very easy to become comfortable in a setting.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's what it was in New Hampshire. Is I was very comfortable, and there was no reason for me to leave. And there was, I could have seen myself staying there forever. I had family, I had friends, I had a job, I had a car, and there was no real reason for me not to be there until I finally found one. Finding one was just me. It wasn't making me happy. And if I just made myself be comfortable there for all of my life, then that's a sad life. That's, all in all, that's, if you go and you don't accomplish anything because you're too nervous or you're too comfortable, then that's just sad.
So was there any parts that haven't worked out for you, whether it's in the blog or it's in moving?
I hate my upstairs neighbor. Really, that's for moving. I ended up in maybe not the nicest area, but it got me here. And my apartment is lovely, and I may possibly want to murder my upstairs neighbor from time to time, but I've never had to deal with that before. We'll see how it goes. And that's probably that's probably my biggest hurdle, is just going from country mouse where everything's quiet and everything's, everybody's really polite, to the city where, I haven't come across anybody who's been like really mean to me. But it's a whole different life here. Everybody is super busy. Everybody doesn't have time to stop and talk, or the inclination. If somebody wants to talk to you, well, then they are weird.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
eventually you're going to ask me for a quarter, aren't you? But I'm blogging. It's mainly time. Time to devote myself to where I want the blog to go, what my dreams for it to become, and the time that I have to put into it. People are like, you must watch a lot of TV. And I have to say, no, I watch very little TV because I don't have the time, you know? And that's something that's I really have to balance is writing about K-drama and actually having the time to sit down and watch it. But now being here, it was easier to do it at home. I still call New Hampshire home. And it's easier at home because I didn't have to go out. Now I live in the city. Now there's lots of things to experience. If I'm home on a weekend, then something is wrong. There's so much out there to experience. Why am I sitting here watching TV? So it's balancing, I think, is something that I'm really trying to work on.
So do you have any dreams for the future, whether for your blog or maybe to take on a new adventure living near the city or moving again to another city or what?
I love it here. I love it here. And as much as I just say, like, oh, how did I end up in New Jersey? You know what? Jersey City is pretty cool. You'll wander around and you just like, what happened? Where am I? It's this gorgeous, gorgeous area. I didn't know it could be so pretty. And then you'll walk in another area and you'll be like, okay, now I'm back. And so I enjoy being here. I could see being here. It's easy to get into with the path. It's easy to get into the city. I would like to possibly get to a nicer area, but that will come later, But as for the blog, I want to keep pushing forward. I hopefully want to, get some contributors, to get more product, maybe turn it into a website, get contributors to not just help take the load off because I don't really work that way. I would just take on new projects, but I have tons of projects in my brains that are just waiting on the sidelines because I don't have time to get to them. And I'd love to be able to do it full time. I think that's my ultimate lovely, lovely goal is if I could do it full time, but I think that's a ways into the future.
Well, everybody wants to do what they love as a full-time job and get paid for what they love.
Wouldn't that be nice?
It would be, but there's plenty of success stories out there of people that just start and they go through and over time they become masters at what they do and the money comes with time.
Right. I think about that because I still work for the job that brought me here. And, I'm just like, oh, I wish I could do something that, I don't think it's too much to ask for to work at a job where you're just super passionate about it, because I don't need a ton of money. I'd like to be excited, be like, yeah, I'm gonna start the day off. And, and that's, so maybe if I don't get that in my regular job, even though the blog's Crazy for K-drama, even though Crazy doesn't pay me, I've got my creative outlet there. And I can, I've got my voice and, I've got people who listen to me. And so I guess that it's the best of both worlds, maybe.
Well, do you have any last thoughts to share with our audience?
If I were to say anything, I would just say, keep your mind open. You don't know where your dreams are going to take you. You don't even know if what you dream now is going to be what you dream in 5 years down the road. But it doesn't mean that by changing your goal, you're giving up at all. It just means that you've learned from one thing to the next and you've just grown into something else. And by working towards that goal, you get to somewhere else. I don't think that I would be as good as Crazy if I didn't have my writing background. So you're never giving up. You're just changing. Just continue to challenge yourself.
Well, one last time, would you like to plug your blog and or Twitter, Facebook?
I have all of those. The blog is crazyforkdrama.com. And let's see, I am Crazy for K-drama on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. I'm currently a giant fan of Instagram. Love it.
Is that Crazy with a K or a C?
With a C. I did not go with the alliteration.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you very much for being on the show, Stephanie. I really appreciate having you, and I would love to have you on again at some point to catch up on your progress of turning your blog and your passion into a monetary inlet for your outlet.
Well, thanks for having me. It has been a ton of fun.
Yes, it most definitely has. Have a great night.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Dreamers Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Dreamers Podcast. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Dreamers Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the Dreamers Podcast, please send an email to j@jpar.co. This podcast is copyright 2014 by jpar.co. On September 22, 2004, Oceanic Flight 815 left Sydney, Australia, bound for Los Angeles and crashed on a remote and mysterious island somewhere in the South Pacific. The survivors quickly realized this was no ordinary island.
The groundbreaking Emmy Award-winning drama Lost ran on ABC television from September 22, 2004 to May 23, 2010, and remains to this day one of the greatest television series of all time. Relive every moment of this amazing series as we reopen the hatch and take you deep inside each episode of this epic series. My name is Joyce.
And I'm Al. And on our show, Lost Flight 815, we'll cover each episode of this immensely popular series in a unique way. We'll watch the show as we record and share our thoughts and Lost facts while you listen to the episode with us.
So tune in to the Lost 815 podcast and visit us on the web at www.lostflight815.com and relive one of the greatest shows of all time.
And be sure to follow us on Twitter at Lost Flight 815.